Resident Evil is no stranger to showing us scary things that go bump in the night when it comes to their enormous catalog of monsters. Whether it be the poisonous giant snake we saw in the original Resident Evil, or something as insane as a baby monster in Resident Evil Village, the series has a wide range when it comes to its creatures. However, since I've done so many videos focusing on the big bad boss monsters of the series, I figured now's the time to focus on the little guys, all of the regular monsters and creatures in the series outside of the boss fights. And before we move any farther, I want to thank the viewer who recommended that I do this category. Rain Snowflake 4664, you asked me to do a ranking on the best monsters in Resident Evil. Well, you know what? Dreams do come true because I am doing it. And while we're on the topic, consider this the new thing we're going to do every single Friday. Hit up the comments and let me know at the end of this video what Resident Evil themed ranking video would you want to see me do next Friday. I'll pick my favorite one, and if I pick yours, I'll give you a shout out just like I did here with my good friend Rain Snowflake. Anyway, this is Ruben with Nerdspace Games, and here are my top 10 best monsters in Resident Evil. Let's get it. Number 10, Ivy and Ivy Zombies. So appearing in both Resident Evil 2 and its remake, these guys might not seem as iconic as some of the other monsters that we'll talk about more later on. However, I think both versions of these man-eating plants are definitely something to write home about. Basically, what appears to be Mother Earth getting revenge on us humans, these things take two different shapes. In the original, they have vines and prevent you from running by them without taking any damage. And if you try to keep your distance, well then you risk the possibility of being shot by their acid, which has surprisingly long range. And if you thought that was bad, well, let me introduce you to the remakes version, Ivy Zombies. They get this nickname because instead of taking the form of mindless, spitting plants, these guys now take the form of a zombie covered in plants basically. Which may not sound as bad, except that if you find yourself getting too close to these guys without a counter weapon, well then it's an immediate game over thanks to their instant kill attacks. Think Iron Maidens from Resident Evil 4, but with vines instead of spikes. That's what you get with Ivy Zombies in the Resident Evil 2 remake. Number 9, Mimicry Marcus. With only one appearance in Resident Evil 0, you would think something like this one-off creature wouldn't really make the list. However, as you will soon see, only appearing in one game doesn't take away the effect the creature has on the players. Take this creature for example. This thing starts off as just a human imitation of, well, you guessed it, James Marcus. However, taking a shot at him or even getting an eye contact of this creature immediately causes it to transform into something much more vicious than just your average zombie. Marcus will turn into this leech humanoid creature that will move extremely fast towards the player and even stretch its limbs out to attack from a distance while also walking closer and closer to the player. And unless you have a Molotov or flame rounds, putting these things down is a long process that'll normally drain the players of any ammunition they have. Add to the fact that it has a killer scary soundtrack every time it transforms, and a self-destruct attack as it grows weaker and closer to the players, you're left with one memorable encounter each time you approach one of these dangerous creatures in Resident Evil 0. Number 8, Bandersnatch. First appearing in Resident Evil Code Veronica, these guys are yet another creature that we've really only seen once out of all the mainline entries. Taking some inspiration from the iconic boss enemies in the series, tyrants, these guys are basically the cost-efficient version of those creatures. While they share some similarities to the tyrants, the Bandersnatch are most known for their iconic ability for long-range attacks thanks to its oversized arm. Bandersnatches only have one arm, but damn is it effective, because what they lose by missing one arm, they make up for it with the one they do have, as it allows the Bandersnatches to do damage with long-range attacks, move quickly towards the player using an arm reach maneuver, and even potentially instant kill the player if it catches them off guard. The unique appearance of this creature, its range of abilities with its oversized arm, and the lore behind the Tyrant knockoff is exactly why it deserves spot number 8 on this list. Number 7, Lycans. Resident Evil Village decided to once again go a completely different direction than its predecessors and introduce the players to monsters of mythology such as the Lycans. These creatures resembled werewolves and had some truly intimidating features just like werewolves do. Probably one of the most rapid, savage, and gory creatures of the series, these guys definitely did not mess around.
Hey! What the?
Village may have gone the direction of action versus horror for most of the game, however the experience with the Lycans was truly a memorable encounter that scared even veterans of the franchise. Heisenberg's cyborg-like Soldats may have been the most creative monsters in the game, but let's face it, Lycans were the most brutal looking creatures, and I trembled in fear every time they were on screen. And it was these creatures that stuck out more than the rest of the creatures in the entire game, other than, you know, Baby Monster, but yeah. Number 6, Cerberus Zombie Dogs. First appearing in the original Resident Evil of 1996, these guys have definitely made their mark on the series, probably appearing in more games than any other creature in the series, outside of the basic zombies of course. It's no surprise that they had to be included on the best monsters of Resident Evil list. However, it's not only because of their multiple appearances in the series why they are on this list, but rather what they do for each game. Every encounter of these rapid zombie dogs in the series usually follows the first enemy type of the game, zombies. Obviously, zombies are much slower and can usually be taken out easily without any damage done to the player at all. However, usually following zombies, we normally would see the Cerberus enter next, and unlike zombies, these guys don't play around. Being much faster and harder to aim at with tank controls, these guys can easily drain your health and get you to that game over screen quickly if you're not paying close attention to your health. For example, the Cerberus with the collar in the 2002 remake of Resident Evil always seemed to kill me at least once per playthrough because I would be so caught off guard between him and his little dog friend, I guess. Cerberus dogs have been used for jump scares in so many encounters and changing up the pace of so many games that just didn't feel right to not include them on this list. Number 5, Zombies. Okay, so I know half of you guys will be upset that this isn't number 1, while the other half of you will probably be disappointed that a basic zombie makes the list for best monsters of the series. But listen, both sides, can you hear me out please? Zombies are a staple of the Resident Evil series. They are at the core and are the most common monster in multiple Resident Evil games. As a matter of fact, most non-fans of Resident Evil will probably know Resident Evil as that zombie game. And ever since the first encounter with a zombie eating your teammate and then slowly turning around to meet your gaze, zombies have made a terrifying presence in the series as a whole. But that being said, zombies might have been made popular in the video games by Resident Evil, but they were not original to Resident Evil. We've seen plenty of zombie movies time and time again, and as iconic as zombies are to Resident Evil, they are not the most intimidating creatures in the series, nor are they the scariest, nor are they the most creative creatures. So with all of this in mind, yes, they deserve to be on the list for the best creatures in Resident Evil, as they are icons and staples of the series. But I just can't see myself putting them higher than this, when some of the other ones I'm going to talk about are more creative, more dangerous, scary, and just overall more deserving of being higher on this list than just the average zombie. Well, at least not this version of them, I guess. Number 4, Crimson Heads. So I feel really bad doing this right after I just dropped the bombshell of zombies being number 5, but of course the more aggressive variant of a zombie has to be on this list as well. Our first and only encounter with a Crimson Head is in Resident Evil, the 2002 remake. Capcom decided to play a cruel but hilarious trick on us as players by adding this new, more savage version of a zombie to the game. See, in the Resident Evil remake, players kill zombies. A lot, obviously. And instead of rewarding the players with empty hallways after killing these zombies, the bodies instead remain behind. Seemingly unimportant at first, these bodies are actually slowly transforming into something much more dangerous. Eventually, unless the player burns the body, these zombies will turn a reddish crimson color. That's the time to be concerned, because running over the body this time will cue a reaction from it, which basically results in it rising from the dead again. These iconic variations of zombies take spot number 4 despite being in only one game, mainly because of the way it innovated an already incredible experience and made it better. Number 3, Hunters. Ever since one of these bad boys tracked us into the Spencer mansion from the exterior of the mansion, we've always grown to despise and fear these predators. Their reptile-like appearance along with their long claws and incredible speed makes for one terrifying combination of a monster. The original Hunter back at the Spencer mansion had extremely quick attacks, but also lunge attacks to help it close the distance. One lunge attack could be an instant kill if it tackles the player into the ground and the players fail to push it off, while another lunge attack can instantly kill the player if they are in the cautious state. They get even more intimidating as the series goes on, with poisonous variants and even the Hunter Y, which is also known as the Hunter Gamma. These hunters are the ones that are in the sewer of Resident Evil 3 remake that'll instantly kill Jill if the player gets too close. Not to mention some extremely dangerous variants are in Outbreak Files 2, which in my opinion are probably some of the most dangerous versions of the Hunter. With so many variants and all of these unique designs and move sets of these creatures, I just had to give them spot number 3 on this list. Number 2, Lickers. Honestly, I could go back and forth between number 2 and number 3 on this list all day if I wanted to, but ultimately I finally decided to just let the Licker have its moment. There are a few things that make it stand out a little bit more to me that ultimately resulted in me putting the Licker on top. First off, the introduction. The introduction to each of these creatures, while the Hunter scene in the original Resident Evil was truly terrifying and had me sweating all the way up to the official encounter with it, the Licker's sound design combined with the creature design alone sets it apart. And then when you add that to the fact that we first see the Licker walking up on the ceiling above a headless corpse and a puddle of blood, licking its lips and drooling as it stares in the direction of the player, then without warning drops and begins to attack. Yeah, this marks the first ever encounter with the Licker in the RPD station of Resident Evil 2, and it definitely stands out more than the first encounter with the Hunter. However, this definitely won't be the last encounter with the Licker. With different modifications and design changes throughout the series, including going into the remake of Resident Evil 2, we soon see Lickers using the entire environment around them to move around the player as it slowly follows the sound you make until it eventually finds you, making horrifying sounds along the way to make you even more nervous as it gets closer. We see it crawling on the walls and the ceilings and then dropping suddenly or stretching its tongue below it to feel around for you until ultimately it locates you. Not only are these encounters terrifying, but also stressful as hell, as you consistently have to worry about making too much noise or bumping into these guys and setting off an aggressive ass creature. With some of the most intimidating encounters in any game, added to one of the most gruesome monster designs, along with one of the most iconic scenes in the series. Yeah, no brainer, this deserves a high spot on the list, guys, to the point where it barely misses out on the spot for number 1.
Are you?
Number 1, Regenerators and Iron Maidens. Lickers and Hunters are both iconic, intimidating, and are some of the best creature designs of Resident Evil. However, one creature, in my opinion, stands out far beyond any other creature in the series: the Regenerators and its siblings, the Iron Maidens. So Resident Evil 4 may have been an action horror experience versus a survival horror experience. However, one thing fans can agree on is that it did still have some elements of horror in it, to the point where it wasn't as far off the rails into the action like Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6. One of these moments that come off as more horror instead of like an action horror experience is actually the Regenerator's lab. See, eventually in Resident Evil 4 and its remake, you'll find yourself in a creepy, dark laboratory. Unaware of what's waiting for you, you slowly make your way through the lab until eventually coming face to face with one of the most horrifying and unique creatures in the series, a Regenerator. At first, other than its terrifying sounds it makes as it gets closer to you, you don't immediately realize the danger it poses. Until after you empty a ton of bullets into it, you realize it's not exactly dying and it just keeps regenerating. That is because these creatures have leech-like parasites inside of them, and unless you take them all out directly, the Regenerator will keep, well, regenerating. However, unless you want to blindly fire all over the body of the Regenerator until you destroy all the parasites, you have to continue through the game until you get the thermal scope to allow you to see these weak spots. Here's the kicker though, even though you can see them doesn't mean it'll be easier, because they are consistently moving towards you, and while trying to take a shot at these weak spots, you'll slowly start to feel panic as it gets closer. And this feeling only gets more intense when you come face to face with the sibling of the Regenerator, an Iron Maiden. Having all the same traits as the Regenerator with one exception: an instant kill attack if it gets too close. These creatures are truly terrifying, and the unique approach one has to take in order to put it down completely is just insane and honestly incredibly creative. Many variations try to mimic this creature, like Paleheads in Resident Evil 3 Remake, or even the whatever you want to call them in Resident Evil 6, but nothing will ever live up to the intimidating, iconic, and memorable presence of the original Regenerator and the Iron Maiden. But that does it for this episode of Nerd Space Games, guys. Hit up the comments, let me know which monster do you think should be at the top of the list, and which monster did I miss out that I did not include on the list. I'd love to know your opinion, so leave that in the comments below. And also, don't forget, we are doing something new every single Friday. Leave in the comments and let me know what type of topic do you want to see regarding Resident Evil, and I'm going to sort through them all, and I'm going to decide which one is my personal favorite and which one I'm going to do next week, and I'll give you a shout out if I choose yours. But anyways, if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and share this video with your friends and family. And as always, I will see you on the next episode of Nerd Space. Take care.